So here we are at the end of race one for the Hy-Vee Iowa IndyCar doubleheader in one of the most bizarre days I've ever experienced at a racetrack. Obviously, for some reasons that are completely have nothing to do with the race itself. Although there's a lot to discuss with the race itself. But I typically don't talk current events here on this channel that don't relate to racing, but this one's pretty big, obviously. I mean, I'm sure you guys have already heard it, but the IndyCar race did not take place on NBC as scheduled today because of the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, who was shot today, thankfully not fatally, although the nation experiencing its first assassination attempt on a president, either current or former, and obviously a presumptive nominee for the Republican Party in the election coming up in November, is very, very concerning for a lot of reasons. And while I'm not going to get like political on this at all, I mean, I think the one thing I'll say about politics is that the whole idea of a republic or a democracy or whatever you want to call this country is that. I thought that we had hopefully evolved enough as a human race and as a society to use politics and voting and elected representatives to settle issues that in previous ways, in previous human civilizations we would have killed each other over. I thought we had gotten better than that as a society, and my thought is that unfortunately we haven't. It's very disappointing, and I'm definitely worried. And I'll just say I'm worried as a citizen of this country about this. I mean, I get it, and you can have very, very legitimate problems with Donald Trump, the man, but nothing good is going to come out of an assassination or an assassination attempt, and you can't convince me otherwise. And very, very sad day for our nation. Very disappointing. And on that note, we will talk about the race here at Iowa Speedway. Obviously, a little bit overshadowed. That's an understatement, but one that was kind of unfortunately everything we feared it would be, which is to say, it was one groove. Didn't see a lot of passing. Lap traffic never really became a factor. All the great things that make IndyCar on a short oval great really didn't show themselves today. And I love Iowa Speedway. This is a great little racetrack. This is a diamond in a corn desert, and it's very, very disappointing for me. And we'll talk about it a little bit more in depth later. That the track was changed, and a series that has supported this track and helped keep it here didn't get to put on a good show, and I think that's an extreme disappointment. The race didn't start off very well. A 4-car pileup coming off of turn number 2, which ironically enough involved the number 66 Meyer-Shank racing car, which a lot of people drew the comparison to Tom Blomqvist at the Indy 500, and obviously David Malukas kind of had the similar thing. Managed to take both of the Juncos Hollinger racing cars out. Augustine Canapino, in fact, his team currently thrashes in the garage area. They will go to a backup car for tomorrow morning's second leg of this doubleheader. Romain Grosjean got back out onto the racetrack, as did Christian Lundgaard, who kind of spun in avoidance, and David Malukas never made it back out onto the racetrack. So a long night of repairs for several teams here just after the first lap. And then we got into a part of the race that really rubbed me the wrong way. This track is obviously short, and any kind of an unexpected or unscheduled pit stop will be a huge penalty, but any kind of an unscheduled pit stop for whatever reason, especially these days with the way the track has changed now, where passing is almost impossible. I get it, being out of line on the restart, and it was a rules change. They wanted to produce penalties for that. They wanted to not incentivize drivers to make really crazy moves on restarts. Totally understand that. But I thought the drive-through penalty that was assessed to, I believe, Santino, Ferrucci, and Will Power. Santino's was the one that was most obvious. But Santino, Ferrucci, lost a ton of time and was kind of unbelievably made it up towards the end of the race. But really, I think that was an excessive penalty for what a jump start penalty actually is. Now, if the goal is to crack down on it and not let it happen again, well, mission accomplished, because the drivers who did make that offense certainly got cracked for it. But I don't know, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But I guess we'll say this, since we're going to be a little bit positive here for a second. I thought Santino Ferrucci drove one of the best races of his career. And yeah, I'm sure he got his laps back because he got waved around. There's a discussion to be had about that rule. I've discussed it at length at this point. But you can't deny the fact that he was one of only 2 drivers who was actually able to make a pass at all today, into a stint or into a run or whatever you want to call it. I guess we'll talk about the hybrid on an oval, which is the first time it's happened. And, it kind of ties into a controversy that happened earlier today during qualifying, in which we had a very bizarre situation where Colton Herta qualified on the pole for this race and didn't actually use the hybrid at all in the first qualifying session of the hybrid on an oval. There were several reruns. I guess race control controls very tightly whether or not the teams can recharge or reload the supercapacitor, when they can harvest energy and when they cannot. And one of those situations is at the beginning of a qualifying session, and some of the teams, when they crossed the line and got access to their hybrid energy, all of a sudden it wasn't there, and therefore there were several reruns, including Jack Harvey, who pulled off early today. He has been suffering from an injury to his arm, which he powered through Mid-Ohio. Absolutely a huge ballsy move today to start the race and run 40 laps. But Jack Harvey, my understanding is, will be replaced tomorrow by Connor Daly. Connor really should have been in the car today. There was a ruling by IndyCar that he had to take a refresher test, which my understanding is would take place sometime tomorrow morning, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. Connor is one of the best oval racers in the series, ran in the top 10 in the Indy 500 just a month and a half ago, and is a driver who put a Carlin car on pole here. He's very capable and should have been capable of taking the 18 car the entire distance today. And I just thought that was a bizarre ruling. But it sounds like Connor Daly will be able to have the opportunity to meet the regulations and drive that car in the race tomorrow. I mentioned the drivers who could pass. Well, Alex Palou was one of them, but he ended up in that position due to circumstances that he didn't want to be in. Alex Palou just simply stalled coming out of the pits. Really unfortunate situation for him. Car ground to a halt, and he lost a ton of positions, but when he got back out onto the racetrack, he started making passes and was one of the very few drivers who was able to make a pass. He was able to utilize his hybrid system. Some other teams and drivers really weren't today. But then Alex Palou crashed all on his own, and it's something that is a very rare sight in IndyCar racing these days. In fact, it was hard to think of a time that Alex Palou crashed on his own, much less in any kind of an important situation, but he did. And ultimately it screwed the number 26 driver, the pole sitter, Colton Herta, who got trapped a lap down when the yellow came out, and he was in the pits, and that was day over for Colton Herta. But no one really could touch Scotty McLaughlin today. I mean, it was Scott's race to win, and he certainly won it, and he certainly deserved it. He had the fastest car. He set a track record in qualifying today, although the actual track record pole is for tomorrow. Scott McLaughlin certainly looks in good form, in fine form, to double up tomorrow morning, which is going to be a wild one for sure, and very difficult for many of these teams. And many of them are thrashing. I mean, there was a yellow for Colton Herta where he did a half spin. There was a very quick yellow called. I don't necessarily blame race control on that. I understand why they did it, because it sure looked like Colton Herta was going to crash, but he didn't. And then that caused another restart, Shemazel, where Will Power, Ed Carpenter, and Pietro Fittipaldi all got into crashing and tore up some more race cars. And it's, you can tell it's been a day. It's been a day for me, for sure, for a variety of reasons. But I guess I'll put it this way, and this is kind of my final thought on today, because, to be honest, while we have a lot to talk about, as you can tell from the length of this video, we also have a lot to, I have a lot to say about this particular race and this particular racetrack and what's been done to it. Pato O'Ward said it best in the post-race press conference. I got to sit in there for very briefly and hear one of the things he said was essentially, they ruined a very good racetrack here in Iowa Speedway, and I would agree with him. I get it, man. NASCAR is a bigger show. They bring in more money. They bring in more tickets. We understand this, right? But Iowa Speedway would not be here. Iowa Speedway would not be in a position to host a NASCAR Cup Series race if they hadn't had the support of the IndyCar Series. If the IndyCar Series hadn't been coming here for as long as they had, and if they hadn't had this event revived by one of their sponsors, Hy-Vee grocery stores, this race and this racetrack would be closed and the NASCAR Cup Series would not be racing here. So in my opinion, Iowa Speedway, whatever they have to do, and I don't know what they have to do. I am not the person who has the answer to that question. But I will say this, I think it is completely on Iowa Speedway. And again, I love this racetrack. I love coming here. I love covering races. I love the style of racing that this track produced. I don't care if Joseph Newgarden won it by 2 laps. There was action, there was excitement, there were 2 and 3 lanes of running, and if you weren't watching the race for the win, hell, there was a good battle for second, or there was a good battle for sixth. Now there isn't. And I think Iowa Speedway absolutely owes it to a series that has supported them to do whatever it takes to fix this racetrack, to bring it back into somewhat of what it used to be, so that the series that stuck with this track and believed in this track gets to put on a good show for all the fans who came out, and many people who are first-timers who have never seen a race before who are here for the concerts. That's nothing against Hy-Vee or IndyCar or any of the partners who put this thing on. They kind of caught a stray here. And I'm really, really disappointed that it's turned out this way. Because, again, I think the fans deserve a better product than what was put on the racetrack today. And that's kind of my final thought until tomorrow morning when we get to see the second leg of this doubleheader. I think we cross our fingers and we hope that it's going to be a more entertaining show. But, it is what it is, right? And, the thing I'll say is, everybody at home, stay safe, stay sane, I think is the other thing. I mean, just think about your fellow man. I said this at St. Pete 2020. I'll say it again here. Treat others as you wish to be treated. I think that's my lesson of the day. And, at the end of the day, this is a sport, and it's entertainment for many people, and it's a job for a lot of people in the paddock. And while it's important, it's also important that you are a good human being. So, yeah, we're just ready to go to bed at this point. But there is IndyCar racing tomorrow, and I guess we have that to be thankful for. And you never know. This series is full of surprises, and there might be some fun in store for tomorrow. So that's my positive message to leave off. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.